Eat now.
If you want to, yeah, you can do it now. Otherwise, you can turn it in next week.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I named the rock. His name is Isaac McFluffyhauser.
That's a great name, Isaac McFluffyhauser. Hauser, not howitzer, thank goodness.
Yes.
All right, let me see if I can find you a picture.
I was supposed to use the back light.
Okay, this one, the answer. The question to that is right here. See what to do for figure one. That's figure one. So those are your instructions for it.
So there's no figure two?
Yeah. Sorry. Got about 2 minutes. Finish what you can. Yep, and let me see, somewhere in here I have photos.
Oh, we have data table proof.
Of samples.
Oh, we got.
Oh, here, that's just. Let's see, that's the strawberry there, two samples, so we're gonna write.
I'll do the sample ones.
There's my dad's. Years, I had been for a couple of years.
That's okay.
I like the ramen, the ramen was good.
I love pepper realistic plates.
A lot of those.
They're insane.
Yeah. Oh, I had this was. This one. This one was, I really like the way it turned out, it was just very pretty. I never got any good pictures of the venue, because this was the room that was so dark. I like the ones that don't look like cakes and. She's gonna have this after UAP.
Oh, we also have.
Like, I didn't do balls, I like the bucket on there, myself, let's see, balls from the like, for making time. There you go. This is one of my favorite, I think, it's just.
We're trying to do it.
Yeah. It was fun. And this one was great, the sledding was in there, so it was the kids were 16. Yeah, she designed them and it's ridiculous, like she's crazy what she wants, so it's always something like ridiculous. Okay, that's really what you want, and I did this one for my priest friend recently. We were doing that anniversary of his ordination. So it's like. If that's a month. Where you put the host. Or the nice.
No, it's like, thanks.
I was asking if it was a real host, I'm like. Do that.
I'm saving up for a camera that's like, I gotta read it.
Oh, nice, yes.
So hopefully I'll be able to do like, get paid for the pictures.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Emerson.
I'll turn in the lab.
Okay, you guys are done. You can turn it in. Points. All right. Just let's see. And then here's your points from today. All right, so it's time for lab rats class. So if you finish your reading, if you haven't, no worries. Everly, there you are. Here's your points. You waked up shortly. Be sure you have socks and shoes before you leave, juniors.
What you should do is you should just always like each class just pick a random person that has done. So, like no one will ever know. So it's always you're always just afraid of everything.
Yeah, I was just afraid of being shot. Yeah, but I'd be afraid y'all would just shoot each other for fun, and that would be what I'd be stuck with. Y'all would break my things, shooting each other. Would not be cool. Alrighty, bye. See ya. We have everybody. 15. Who am I missing? Am I missing? 13, 14, 15. All right. I think we've all settled in pretty much. So hopefully you got at least a lot done, if not finished. And if you got it finished, you can, turn it in before you leave today. And if you didn't, that's fine. Be sure that lab team captains have made sure that last week's lab is turned in. Right? Dope. Cool. Let me check my AC before we get going, because I think it needs to be reminded to cool down. Yes, sir.
I'm not, but I got the last.
Okay, good job. Alrighty, so we are moving on to ecology, ecosystems, and population. So there's your first answer. Categorize the following as biotic, abiotic, or both. So air we have as abiotic. How about animals? Caitlin?
Biotic.
Yep. And how about bacteria? Eunice?
Biotic.
Very good. And how about heat? All right, Lucas?
Abiotic.
Abiotic. Jordan, how about plants? Oh, no, sorry. I thought that was you over there on the side of my eye. Asher.
Plants are biotic.
Plants are biotic. Sorry. I saw somebody about the same eyes and the same hair color out of the corner of my eye. I should know it's you. All right. And then Ridley, how about soil?
Oh.
Right. We had this conversation about how soil is both. And then enter the vocabulary term that best matches the definition below. What is a heterotroph? Which gains energy by eating only plants. What do we think that one is? Kenna. Herbivore. And what's a heterotroph that gains energy by eating only animals? Isabella. Carnivore. And then what is a heterotroph which gains energy by eating both plants and animals? Barrett. Omnivore. This is basic, right? This is easy. We're rolling through these. And how about a heterotroph which gains energy by feeding on disintegrated or eroded matter? Anybody new yet? Anybody new yet? Yusuf. Specifically a detritivore. So an animal that gets its energy by eating little bits of matter, disintegrated matter, is a detritivore. So how about a heterotroph which breaks down organic matter? Eunice again. Breaks down.
Decompose.
There you go, decomposer. And how about this one? A heterotroph which consumes dead organisms but typically does not kill for food. Colin. Scavengers. All right, so this question messed y'all up. Some of y'all I had two or three of you that were totally confused, and some of you had no problem with this and knew exactly how to label it. This little pyramid here. What does number 13 show? Anybody want to tell me what you put for 13? Jordan?
I don't know if this is technically correct, but I put photosynthesis and chemosynthesis.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So it's looking for the source of the energy. So yeah, sunlight would be it. Yeah, and through photosynthesis is right. Yeah. So how about 14? What percent there? First level consumers. What percent? What'd you get, Asher? 10%, he says. And then how about second level consumers? Claire? 1% for that one. And then what about the top? How about the tippy top? Drew? there's your 0.1% at the tippy top. Very good. All right.
I had no idea what it was asking.
See, it was fun. Okay, that makes 3 of you. The rest of you just soared right through it, and about 3 of you were texting and emailing me going, I don't understand.
I did. I thought it was like the 4th question.
Yeah. You weren't the only one who was like, what is happening? Okay. Yep. All right, so now let's talk about weather and climate. All right, one of these is what you get, and the other is what you expect. What do you suppose is what you get, weather or climate? What do you think?
Weather.
Weather is what you get, and climate is what you expect. So your weather are your conditions of the atmosphere over a short period of time. Your weather can change within minutes or hours, right? And then your climate is how your atmosphere behaves over a long period of time. It's your average regional weather pattern over many decades. So we have to have lots of good research when it comes to climate, right? Whereas weather, you know, they'll tell you, I loved it. The other day we had a 13% chance of rain in like a 1-hour time frame. And then it rained like crazy for like 2 hours. So, you know, we talk about earth science, but weather predictions, it's percent of precipitation. It's a math formula that includes like how likely it is to have, how likely you are to have precipitation and how likely you are to have precipitation hit your area within a specific area. So that's why people are always like, the weathermen don't know what they're doing. They're really just doing their best. Though sometimes I think they don't know what they're doing either because they make me nuts. So then we also have greenhouse effect, and we know this is essential for life on Earth here. You've got solar radiation that comes through your nice clear atmosphere. It gets absorbed by the Earth's surface and it warms it up. While some of it's going to get reflected back into space, some of it's going to come down into the atmosphere, and that nice little ozone layer we have is going to keep that warm air in here so that our planet isn't too cold, but it also allows our planet not to get too hot by reflecting a certain amount of radiation from the sun. This is why we are the perfect place for life and not like Mars or, you know, Mercury or yeah, or Venus. That would be different. Yeah, the sun is not, definitely not where you want to be. So greenhouse gases, this greenhouse effect is part of our normal atmospheric stability, and it's essential for life. So then we have things called microclimates. So these are caused by small differences in environmental conditions within a region. So microclimates exist in places like mountaintops and valleys. If you've ever been out in the mountains, you might notice that up at the mountaintop, it's a whole lot windier than it is below. It might be colder depending on the elevation. It might be, not going to bend down today and pick that up. Might be colder or warmer based on how high it is. And you might notice that valleys tend to be really nice and cool. Sometimes they're cooler, they're wetter because a lot of the, you know, the water is going to run down into the valley. So those are microclimates. Canopies within forests can be microclimates, and areas within lakes and ponds, for example, that are deeper, or in oceans that are deeper or more shallow, are microclimates. And then this graphic here shows you that like all the different things that can affect microclimates, from soil moisture to temperature, humidity, wind direction and speed, air temperature, all kinds of things involved. If you live in a valley and then you climb to the top of the mountain, it's very, very different. So like even how you might construct your house would be different, for example, or what kind of clothes you might need just to get through your day or night would be different. Insurance. Yeah, that's very true. I'm always amazed at the fact that people in certain areas can even get insurance, like certain coastal areas that get pounded by storms, or certain areas that are very predisposed to wildfires. It's like, I'm surprised. Your homeowner's insurance must be real fun. So you've also got things like, what direction do you face? Okay, can anybody tell cardinal direction wise which direction you are all facing right now? Does anybody know?
What?
Trying to figure it out. West, eastish.
South.
Drew?
North about that way.
Yeah,
Go south that way.
yeah.
So west probably like right.
So what direction are we facing? Are you all facing?
Southwest.
You all are facing pretty due south, actually, right now. So the sun comes up over the, this is one of my favorite things about this house. The sun comes up over the river. It's great. Beautiful way if you want to get up early enough to watch a sunrise. This is a great place to watch a sunrise. Comes right up over the river. And then it's going to come around this side of the house. Why is it coming around this side, not that side of the house? Why does it go this way?
Because we're.
That's how it goes.
Because we're in the northern hemisphere, right? So it's going to go this way around the southern side of the house because it's going to be closer to the equator. So the southern side of the house. And then the front of my house faces due west. So that would be north right there. So because of that, it's notice right there where it says that south, full sun is hot, will require shade cloth in the summer. I don't know what cloth means. I guess it means if drop something there, wherever you're. So I can put plants on this side of my house that like full sun because they're going to get it. But plants on that side of the house are going to get mostly shade. This is also why they say the moss always grows on the north side of the tree, because in the northern hemisphere, because the southern side of the tree is going to get more sun during the day. It's going to be drier during the day. And moss is non-vascular. It can't really take up water too much. It kind of has to absorb the water. So it's on the back side of the tree, the north side of the tree where it stays shady. That's where the moss can grow. So if you're in a forest and you're trying to find out which direction you're going, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the moss is going to be on the northern side of the trees predominantly. You might see it everywhere, but most of it will be on the northern side of the trees. So all of these things come into play when you're building a house. You don't want to put most of your windows on the southern side of your house here in the northern hemisphere unless you really like being hot. Really like being hot. Yeah. And we have to, like, all the windows on the front of my house that have bedrooms in them, with the exception of this one because it's shaded by the cherry tree, they've all got blackout curtains because it gets that setting sun right like Drew's bedroom and Cole's bedroom. It just pours right into the front of the house. It's very, very hot. But this is a great room for that because we don't get a whole lot of heat. We get some, but it's not too bad. So those are all things to consider when building your house. And there's certainly things that critters consider when building their houses and plants consider when they decide where they're going to grow, just like moss. Like I said, you're not going to find moss on the southern side. So changes in communities. So remember, communities are populations of different species, right? So we have what we call ecological succession. You, unfortunately, live in a great place to view ecological succession day to day in your daily life, because we are doing a lot of development in this area, right? This North Georgia area, Forsyth, Gwinnett, things are getting torn down on the regular, right? Forests are getting knocked over. Now, if you are ever in a time period when things get torn down and then there's a slowing in business and they just don't immediately start building, you can watch the ecological succession take place. So have you ever driven past like a field and it's just full of like little scrubby pine trees? Like no big trees, just little, 6 foot high. They're all this big around. They're packed together really tight. So that's because it has reached its intermediate stage. So when you knock everything down, say you're one of these development, let's say we're hypothetically, a development company's going to come in and they're going to take a piece of forest and they're going to level it, because that's what they do, right? They clear cut. They're going to level the forest. It's going to get down to bare rock and soil. The first thing that's going to grow are the little lichens, which are a combination of organisms that live together. But you've seen lichen before, probably. You'll get lichen, and then you'll get like moss and things like that. And then you'll get your little tiny plants that don't come up very tall, just little ground cover things, little weeds. Then you'll start to get grasses. And then you'll get perennials. You'll get the flowering grasses and the small weeds that flower, your dandelions, things of that sort will come in, right? And then you start to get your taller grasses, and then you get your shade intolerant trees because there's no shade. You've knocked everything down. So you get your stuff that really likes full sun. That's where you'll see your little pine trees come in. All the little pine trees will move in first, and they'll be the very first things to grow. And only after that ecosystem is well established will the hardwoods come in. And we call that climax community because then it's reached its ultimate point. So you'll find, like, if you look out here, do we see predominantly hardwoods or predominantly pines and fir trees, evergreens? What do we see? Predominantly hardwoods. There are some pines. We have a couple. The pines we have are not little pines. They're big pines because they're old. But I see poplars. I see dogwoods. I see oak trees. I see a hickory tree. Those are all hardwood trees. So that means this is old as compared to a lot of places around here where so now if you're driving around the county and you see these fields that are just nothing but these scrubby pine trees, it's because they knocked everything down, and this is the order in which things return. So we call these things that come within the first 1 to 2 years, and really 1 to 4 years, pioneer species. That makes sense, right? Like think about the pioneers setting out into the wilderness to start their own lives and settle. So they're settling in. Then you have intermediate species, and then again your climax community. So over hundreds of years to get from nothing to here. And you can have this is primary succession. This means you've started with nothing. Our example that we were just giving, where they had a forest and then they knocked it down and it came back, or they had a forest and it burned, that would be secondary succession, meaning it's doing it again. But primary is when it would arrive there in the first place. So like you never had anything there before. It's a lava flat or something, and now the volcano has gone dormant and things are starting to grow, or a lake has receded and things are starting to grow. So mosses and lichens are typically the first to colonize bare rock and are your pioneer species. Many organisms require soil before they can colonize. So the lichens colonize the bare rock, secrete acids, break down the rock, and they themselves die. And so you get that biotic and abiotic mixture that creates the soil that is necessary for these other small plants, and then eventually pines and deciduous trees to move in. All right, so who has an answer for what is ecological succession? Eunice.
It's a nature process of changing.
Yeah, it's a series of predictable changes that occur in a community over time. So what's primary succession, Jordan? Yes. Yes, the succession that occurs on surfaces where no soil exists. We don't have any soil to begin with at all. So when a disturbance changes a community without removing the soil, what type of succession is going to follow, Kenna? That's your secondary succession. So your process, describe the process of succession in an ecosystem. How does it go? Step by step. All right, Eunice, you go again.
Small plants go first, and then the bigger plants and animals will return.
Yes, so you have older inhabitants are going to die, newer ones are going to move in, and eventually you get to your big climax community, your big forest. Would see this when it says mature forest has white oak and hickory, climax forest has beech and sugar maple. So those are things that come later. They require what these guys put into the soil in order to live. So what does secondary succession typically, why does secondary succession typically proceed faster than primary? All right, Lucas.
Because in primary there's nothing, and it has to come from nothing. But
Right.
in secondary, there's already some stuff there that it can come from, like
Right, there you go. So nothing comes from nothing, but the only things that can live on rocks really are lichens and then mosses and things. So yeah, you have the soil is in place already when you do your secondary succession. So what you're seeing when you drive around the county and you're seeing everything torn up and leveled and little sticky pine trees coming back in, you're seeing some secondary succession because there was soil there to begin with. They just knocked everything down. So biogeography, actually, I'll cover that up. There's a word you can break down into its parts. Bio means life, geo means earth, and what does graphy mean? Mapping or writing or yes, okay. So it's the branch of biology that deals with geographical distribution of plants and animals. So who did earth science with me? Where are my earth science people? All right, got a couple in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, three of you, only 3 of you that did earth science. Earth science is next year. So Alfred Wegener is one of the dudes we talk about in earth science. So this guy proposed this idea of continental drift, and he based it on the following things. He said the continents fit together like a puzzle. Yes. Okay, I can observe that. All right. Paleoclimate indicators like evidence of glaciation. He can see maybe there was a glacier that moved through Africa and South America, and it's the same kind of glacier, and they could tell from paleoclimate indicators that it was. So now it's like, was this the same? This would have been the same glacier. Okay, because they were connected. He also said you have truncated geological features like similar rocks found in South America and Africa. There are also similar rocks in our Appalachian mountain range that there are to Scotland Highlands, because they were once here, right? And then he said, and then you got fossil distribution, evidence of species that lived in areas that are too cold for them. They couldn't have lived there now. Like this continent couldn't have been in its current position because it's too cold for this creature to have lived there, or it's too hot for this creature to have lived there. And then you have things like this. Maybe they know for a fact that what is that? I know I can't read it from here. this dude, whatever he is, Sinognathus, sorry, it was a glare no matter where I went. Sinognathus in the orange there. Maybe they know it can't swim. We're not well enough to cross water to get from South America to Africa. That's a long way, South America to Africa today. Where they are, it's a long way. So he's going the same fossils on both sides. They must have been closer together. And look at the plant right there. Glossopteris is a great example. Where the green is, that little fern. How's that fern going to swim from Australia to Antarctica? Why would there be fossils in Antarctica? It's ice, right? So, I mean, these are the arguments he made. Now, here's the crazy thing. What was the problem with the arguments? Who remembers from earth science? What was the issue? He made all these arguments and people are like, okay, cool. What was it, Drew?
Can you explain how it happened?
He couldn't explain how it happened. So everybody went, cool, Alfred. All right, whatever. That's interesting. But you can't explain how. So we're just going to kind of leave your theory here for now. Does anybody remember how they were able to determine that he was right? Caitlin?
The ecology, I forget the specific one, but
Uh-huh.
that shows the pattern of movement for the ball.
Yeah, you're close. Yeah, you're almost there. So it was during, I think it was World War I, if I'm correct, that there were ships that were mapping the ocean floor using magnetic technology. And we know that the north and south poles of our planet have swapped multiple times. It'll be north and south, and then whoop, and then they will switch back and forth. And they've done this periodically throughout history, never while there were humans dealing with compasses. So that'll be interesting because it will one day happen again. So won't that be fun? Everything's backwards. So when they were mapping the floor, they found that at the mid-Atlantic range, where you've got magma coming up and spreading, it's pushing two continental plates away. They're divergent plates. And in doing that, the magnetic components of the rocks orient themselves with the poles. And then they keep moving out. And then when the poles swap, they swap orientation. So it was like a series of stripes on the ocean floor, basically, that mirrored each other, that showed those two plates were moving away. So that's how Wegener's theory was eventually proven. Yes.
So if when the poles swap, do you think people will still refer to the north as the north, or will they actually?
No, won't that be fun? I have no idea. I don't want to do that. It sounds really bad. Yeah, it's not on here. We don't have North America on that one.
Found a brownie point. Is it Alfred Wegener, not Wegener?
It's vinegar. It's German. So you say it with a V. Yeah. Yep.
No, like it's not Wegener, it's Wegener.
It's vinegar.
Oh.
Almost like vinegar, but not. Yeah, almost. So anyway, Alfred was a cool dude, and we in Earth Science we do a really fun lab where we model. We talk about modeling. We model divergent plates and convergent plates. Does anybody remember how the lab works? Do you remember, Yusuf?
Tomato soup and crackers.
Tomato soup and crackers. Yes, we have little frying pans that we put on our hot plates, and we put tomato soup, and we take Ritz crackers, and we just barely break them apart and lay them in there and watch them spread away from each other and bump into each other, because that's convection heat. And that's how the mantle works. That's how our plates move. Yeah.
It tastes really good.
It does taste really. You get to eat some tomato soup and crackers if you like it. It's kind of it's a fun lab in that regard. So let's talk about species dispersal. Among both plants and animals, dispersal usually takes place at a time of reproduction. And how do we define dispersal? Anybody want to define it? What you got, Barrett?
The percentage of a certain species or population in a given area.
Okay, that's good. Yes. So it's a movement of individual organisms from their birthplace to other locations for breeding. So organisms are also spread by passive means such as wind, water, and other creatures. So we'll look at those. Well, example, wind like a dandelion, water like a coconut, and then those of you who saw the little passion fruit down there, the maypop that I pointed out that was down in this plot over here, that was not there last year. So that likely came from an animal, because that's not really a seed dispersal, that's wind or water. So that some bird or deer or something pooped it out over there, and I'm really happy about it. Yeah.
You put them in water.
Mm-hmm.
They dissolve or anything.
Yeah, they just float. So Things that can limit dispersal, one sec, are things like physical barriers. So these little foxes, they cannot breed because they can't get across the water. So there are not going to be any additional foxes on either side because that's a net loss, isn't it? Poor guys, they get to stare at each other across the river. Hey, baby, across the river at each other. Barrett, did you have a question?
What phones?
Did you have a question?
Yeah. If you ever seen like when I take my dogs out in the yard, you can see like the little green little balls that were like what are they called? The tiny green spiky ones.
Gumballs?
Yeah.
From the sweet gum tree, yeah.
And they'll stick to their fur.
Oh, burrs. You mean
Burrs.
burrs? Yes,
Like,
burrs,
basically,
yes.
They get all my dog's fur, and those
Yeah.
are seeds.
That is
They
seed
transfer
dispersal.
and-
Specifically, yep. So then you've also got competition. These two dudes are fighting over a resource. Now your resources can be territory, it can be food, it can be water, and it can be mates. These are the big things we compete over. So this guy's bent the other dude's beak because he hauled off and whacked him for trying to eat what was left of that rack of rib. I don't think anything's left on there.
Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. He's like, get away from my bones. So obviously competition is going to be a limitation to dispersal. If this little bent beak dude cannot eat, he cannot live, he cannot reproduce, his genetic line does not disperse, right? Yeah. And then we got climate. Sometimes there are big shifts in climate, like ice ages, things of that sort. Like, if an asteroid hits Earth and causes a big dust cloud and then we can't get any sunlight and then everything gets really cold, okay, now we've got problems. So changes in weather are usually not going to too adversely affect a species that is adapted to the habitat. If it's in a habitat it doesn't belong in, that's different. But it's adapted to that area, it's probably gonna be okay with the weather. Climate shifts are different though. We need to be careful about that. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's bears.
Are humans?
No. So I mean, not really, because we put ourselves at the tippy top and we tell everybody else what they are. So as you said, you mentioned birds. There's birds on there too. So dispersal by wind would be things like milkweed. Some of you had milkweed in your plots out there, especially the same plot that had the maypop in it had milkweed in it. Those, you ever see the big puffy things that are floating through? I always called them fairies as a kid. Some people still call them that, right? They just kind of float and keep floating and keep floating. They're way bigger than the dandelion ones. Those are milkweed seeds, if you ever see them. And they're beautiful. They make these perfect little puff balls that they'll just float along forever because they're so light that even the slightest, like even trying to catch them chases them away because you're moving the air around them because they're so lightweight. And then you got dandelions, of course. We all know about blowing on dandelion heads and sending little weeds off into the yard. They're fun to do, but they're just making more of a mess for your groundskeepers or your parents or whoever does your grass. And then maple is a great example. Anybody else call those helicopters? You drop them and they spin. They're so much fun to watch. Yes. So those are meant to catch the wind and move away from the place where they were born and spread the population around. Then you've got by animals, like we said, some things are eaten, like that blackberry. If a squirrel eats a blackberry and poops it out somewhere else, that's the whole purpose of those seeds. They're in scat, which is even better because they're fertilized and everything. They're set to grow. It's like a perfect little pocket. And then you've got sandburrs, which are similar to like you were talking about, burrs on your dog. There's other burrs at the top. Beggar ticks are a type of burr. And then by water, you've got things like lotus. Those little seeds pop out of there when the lotus blossom opens up and they float. Cattails. And they also use wind. Cattails use wind as well. You can see them blow away. And then coconut. Coconuts are seeds that are meant to float on the water. If you've ever seen one floating, it's pretty darn cool. They're very buoyant because they're largely hollow inside, right? And then you've got stuff like where it says bursting. Some seeds on some plants are going to just kind of, when it opens up, they'll just kind of get to a point where they fall off and get the ground around them, which is probably what you're most familiar with. But then others will literally pop, and they'll either like pop out seeds or sometimes they'll pop out pollen, like really hard, like they eject it. There's force behind it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, mountain laurel, because it's got little almost like lantern like flowers and they kind of pop open. Yeah.
There's this one plant where like it has the pods and if you touch it, it'll like fling it away somewhere else.
Oh yeah. And then humans, we disperse all kinds of things. If you're eating a watermelon at a picnic, chances are you're just spitting seeds everywhere.
I eat the seeds.
You're weird.
They do, man.
I like the little white seeds, but not the big hard
I
ones.
just eat the seeds.
Cherries, we've dispersed all those species around. So then we have different physical barriers. Probably our most obvious physical barrier situation would be Australia, right? Australia has some weird
I
stuff
don't want the spiders.
that we don't have anywhere else, right? Because everything there has evolved in this very isolated situation. So you're not going to see a koala bear in Georgia because it is not koala bear, koala, because it's not going to swim all the way here. That is too far.
I'm going to the zoo.
Yeah, well, in a zoo, that's about the only chance. But yeah, so that's why the species are so diverse. We do have one native marsupial to North America, and it is
Awesome.
Virginia opossum. Very good. Yep. So here are some invasive species that have decided to make Georgia a new home. This means that wherever they're coming from probably has a similar climate and ecosystem because they can make their home here. Now there are lots, but here are 3 animal species. So we have this lovely fellow. He does not belong here.
What is that?
Yeah,
That's okay.
he does not belong here. We have these guys.
Oh, and it-
Yep. And we have yes. So the tegu lizard is from Argentina, and he probably hitched a ride on a boat, like a cargo ship, maybe a plane, but I'm thinking a cargo ship. Made his way over. Now, if only one tegu lizard makes it over here and it's not a female that's like laden with eggs, probably not going to be a big deal because he's not going to change the population over here over the long term, is he? He'll be one little guy on his own and then he'll die and that'll be the end of it. But if a female that's full of eggs makes her way over here, or a female and a male make their way over here, now we have a problem, right? So one lizard might not be a big deal, but 2 or 3 lizards could be a very big deal depending on which 2 or 3 lizards you have. Now, this brown marmorated stink bug comes from Asia. Very prevalent in like Vietnam, those other parts of Asia. And it has, this is the best part, no natural predators in North America. It doesn't look that different from our native stink bugs that have been here forever and ever, but the birds and everything else that eats stink bugs recognize this as something completely foreign. They go, oh, no, that's not my dinner, and they leave them. And nothing eats them, which means that means they just keep multiplying, right? And we get more and more and more of them because nothing eats them, except our friend the Juro spider, who also does not belong here, is from the same part of the world as the stink bug. And this is the one bonus to the Juro spiders. They eat those stink bugs where nobody else will. But they are not eaten by too many of our native species. Sometimes it takes a native species a while to decide whether or not something is edible. Like, is this food? Otherwise they're just like, if you notice the first year the Juros came, which was 4 or 5 years ago, it was like madness, right? They were everywhere. It was really, really bad. Then a winter came and we lost a lot of them. And now they've kind of balanced out their population, but it's still, they don't belong here. They don't belong.
I actually saw one eating another one.
Yeah. So sometimes they will tell you, the ecologists will tell you if it is an invasive species, a non-native species, if it's causing any problems in the ecosystem, they will tell you to go ahead and kill those if you see them, please. As opposed to let it live, it's in nature. It doesn't belong here and it's causing problems. So they'll tell you to kill them. I had to deal with the Juros bugs when they came, the little spiders came that first year. I was like, if you're inside my fence line, I'm killing you. If you're outside my fence line, I'll leave you be for now. I killed like 83 or something the first day, and then I gave up, but I walked around with a can of spray, and there were that many. It was so bad. Yeah. So we have to be very careful. This is why if you travel internationally, like you're not allowed to bring fruit and things like that through customs, they'll stop you because little bugs live in there, and then they get over here and then they cause big problems. Little bugs, big problems.
Turtle.
So aquatic biomes, isn't it cute? It's Crush. Yo, dude. Yeah, big wave. All right, so we have terrestrial biomes and aquatic biomes. So terrestrial biomes, let's look at these. So the term boreal forest tends to mean the more southern part of the biome when you're talking about the northern hemisphere. Where taiga tends to mean the more northerly part of the biome, where it transitions into the tundra, and predominantly our taiga and tundra are going to be northern hemisphere anyway. So we'll look at these kind of one by one here. So let's look at rainforests. So we have two main types, and what are they?
Tropical and
Tropical is one. What's the other? Colin? Temperate. Tropical and temperate are our two main types of rainforests. Tropical rainforests are found closer to the equator. The tropical rainforest is hot, moist biome where it rains all the time, right? All year long. There's 3 levels. There's a canopy, an understory, a forest floor. Each of those is like a little microbiome in itself, an ecosystem within itself. They're very different. Animals that live on the floor cannot live in the canopy. Animals that live in the understory don't do well on the floor necessarily. Plants too, plants and organisms that plant themselves, like orchids and stuff that grow off the sides of other trees. They have a space within that tree where they're going to be, not too high, not too low. And they're found, the temperate rainforests though are going to be found in cooler areas along the coasts, north or south of the equator. So let's look here. What are our 3 largest rainforests in the world? Want to give me one of them, Barrett? Amazon is going to be the largest. Now I want you to look at the size, the area. 5.5 million square kilometers is our largest rainforest, and it's right there. That's massive. What's our next largest going to be? The next largest. Do you know, Yusuf?
The Asian rainforest.
The Asian rainforest? Yeah, well, we're getting there. So yeah, Congolese, African one, actually, is going to be our next largest. And look at the size of that one, like almost 1.8 kilometers squared. So look at how much bigger the Amazon is.
No way.
Huge. And then our last one would be,
No, I just wanted to ask what that was in miles.
oh, I don't know, you'd have to convert it. Alexa, convert 5.5 kilometers to miles.
5.5 kilometers is 3.42 miles.
So 3.42 million square miles is pretty.
So it's like it's almost
Yeah. So, all right. So then our last one, this is the one you were talking about, the Asian one. We call this the New Guinea rainforest. And it's only 288,000 square kilometers. That's still big. That's still quite large, right? But when you compare it to the Amazon, it's not as large. Now, where is our temperate rainforest? Where do you see it? Do you see it, Lucas?
New Guinea rainforest?
No, that one's going to be tropical. Do you see it, Asher?
the one above.
The one above what?
Congolese.
Above what?
The one above the rainforest.
Yeah. So we're looking for one that's not near the equator. Yusuf? No. Drew?
Florida or California?
Those are still pretty near the equator. Where's the one that's not near the equator, Caitlin?
The one up there.
Canada.
Up here?
Yes.
Not Pacific Northwest? Correct. That's rainforest. You may not think of it as rainforest because it's not tropical, but it's temperate. That's where we've got all the giant redwood forests and all that sort of stuff. That's all rainforest. Yeah.
New Zealand.
New Zealand? Yeah, New Zealand has it too. Bottom of Australia, kind of down in that area. Those are still kind of nearer the equator though, compared to some of the others. But yeah, I think temperate, I think this qualifies as temperate down in South Africa too. So yeah, so you've got temperate as well as tropical. Now we have taiga. So our taiga is a boreal forest biome of vegetation composed primarily of cone-bearing, needle-leaved, or scale-leaved evergreen trees found in northern circumpolar, so around the pole, regions characterized by long winters and moderate to high precipitation. Taiga in Russian means land of little sticks, and it takes its name for the collective term for the northern forest of Russia and Siberia. You heard of Siberia before? You heard of Siberia as a joke? It's like, I'll send you to Siberia. Like, so when I was in college, the student parking for undergrads was way in the back. You had to walk. It felt like a much bigger road than I'm sure it was, but when you had to walk it, it was like, you had to walk all the way to this parking lot that was way in the back, and we called the parking lot Siberia. That was the name of the parking lot. Like, where's your car? It's in Siberia. Oh, we gotta walk all the way back to Siberia now. Past the tennis courts and past the rock climbing wall and almost to the horse barn, and then we're in Siberia to get our car. So yeah, Siberia is like way up there, and it's predominantly snow and evergreen, pine trees.
Nobody lives
there. Yeah. It's a harsh place. It's very, very harsh. To live here is difficult, to say the least. So the largest taiga is where? You can see where it is. Where's the largest one? Right there, Russia. Yep, Russia, Siberia. It's about 3,600 miles long from the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. That's like bigger than the United States. Like if you were to drive from one side to the other, that's how long this taiga is. It's huge. And it's completely, it was completely glaciated or covered by glaciers during the last ice age. And the soil beneath the taiga often contains permafrost, which is permanently frozen soil, which means very few things are going to grow in it because it is permanently frozen. So then next we have our temperate deciduous forest. What is your biome, people? Where do you live? What's your biome? In the, Isabella? In the temperate deciduous forest. Do you see Georgia? There you are. You live in the temperate deciduous forest. Not only do you live in a temperate deciduous forest, you live in the world's largest temperate deciduous forest, but most of it has been deforested. Yeah. So a temperate deciduous forest is a biome that has deciduous trees. That means they drop their leaves in the fall. Not evergreens. Trees that drop their leaves are deciduous trees, okay? So they're known as broadleaf forests because their leaves are big and flat, right? They have as much surface area as possible to collect as much sunlight as they can, and then they fall and die. So your temperate deciduous forests are mid-latitude areas. So between the poles and the tropics, you can see that's smack in between poles and tropics, right? Pretty clear that's where you'd be running. They have 4 distinct seasons. They have a winter, spring, summer, fall. The winters are cold, the summers are hot. True seasons. And they get between 30 to 60 inches of precipitation a year. They're organized into 5 zones based on the height of the trees. From the tallest to the shortest, there's a tree stratum, a small tree and sapling zone, a shrub zone, an herb zone, and a ground zone. So we've even further subdivided these. So like I said, the largest temperate deciduous forest is in what continent?
Asia.
No, it's this one right here, the one you're living in, the eastern part of North America. But it was almost completely deforested by 1850 for agricultural purposes. Okay, so one sec. If you're driving around Georgia and you're up in the mountains or you're out in the country and you see nothing but fields, that is not the natural way of this biome. It should have looked more like that. It has been deforested. Most of this area has been deforested for agricultural purposes. We got here and we were like, oh, we need to eat, so we better grow some things. So we had to cut down trees to grow some things. And now you see these big fields everywhere, big farms everywhere. It's not like those people's ancestors walked out and looked for a clearing and were like, hey, we'll make a farm. No, they made the clearing. Okay, what were you gonna ask?
Can biomes overlap?
A little bit, yeah. They absolutely can.
So I know someone from Texas
Yep.
came over here and they said there's so many trees and they're really big.
Yeah.
Because
It's very
compared to Texas, I've gone to Texas and I've been like, those trees are practically shrubs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's how I felt.
Exactly.
Drew?
How is the one on the East Coast larger than the one in Europe, but the one in Europe looks.
It has to do with when we flatten the map, things get distorted. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
What's the world seed for
What's the what?
the world seed?
The world seed? What do you mean? What do you mean by world seed? I'm not following you. I'm trying. Anybody help me? Nope. Okay. You'll have to get back to me on that one. I don't know where you're going. But here's the thing. So when, like you were saying, there's so many trees when you come from somewhere else. So like I felt that way every time I visit Texas. I'm like, boy, is it dusty and dry here with my kid. But my cousin, who's 2 years younger than me, he grew up in Phoenix. And when he would come to Virginia Beach to visit when we were kids, we picked him up from the airport one time and we were driving through this neighborhood that's a very green neighborhood with trees everywhere. And it's like 4 blocks off the ocean. So there's like sand in the soil too, but there's also lots of trees. And I remember him looking out the window of my grandmother's Levi Strauss edition Pacer, which was a cool car, and saying, wow, it's a jungle out there, because he had never registered that many trees before. So, I mean, we were all like, yeah, Colby, it's a jungle. Okay. It's a jungle out there. He's a doctor now. So it's a sports medicine doctor. And he lives in El Paso, so he likes the desert. I guess that's where he returned to. So yeah. So now we have grasslands, and we have different kinds of grasslands. We have our savannas, and these are the ones that have like a rainy season and then a very long dry season. This is the purple area. Much of Africa is savanna, right? So if you watch nature programs and you're watching like lions hunt zebras, they're generally hunting zebras in tall brown grass, right? Because it has a dry season that lasts for a very long time. Your temperate grasslands are known for their rich soils, abundant growth of grasses, and then you have steppe grasslands, which are semi-arid areas. Grasses in the steppe are shorter. They're not the big tall grasses. They're little shorter grasses. So they're kind of the in-betweens. So your three main factors that maintain grasslands are low rainfall, wildfires, and grazing animals. So your grazing animals are going to keep your grass population in check, obviously, because they're going to munch it down, and they probably are munching down a fair amount of the flowering parts of the grasses too, so that kind of maintains your population. But wildfires are a normal part of an ecological cycle. Like, we hear about wildfires and we panic because, oh my gosh, it's terrible. And it is terrible, especially terrible when it destroys property and lives and things of that sort. But it's a normal part of a lot of ecosystems. There's a point there's somewhere in time, lightning hits a tree or something and it lands and it catches fire and all the grass lights on fire, and that actually kind of resets things, and it's the way it's supposed to be. It's evolved that way. Makes the soil nice and rich and gives new grasses an opportunity to grow where the old ones have been burned away. So grasslands are generally located between deserts and forests. Does anybody know what we call this part of America right there where it says green grasslands?
I was about to say the Middle East, but it's
Midwest, which is
Midwest.
weird. Yeah, Midwest is another name. I'm thinking there's a nickname for it that has to do with agriculture. Do you know? Do you know?
Plain.
It's the plains, but we have an agriculture nickname. Do you know?
Tornado Valley.
Tornado Valley. Yeah. So people call this the breadbasket of America. Think about it. That's where all of our grains are. That's where we grow all of our wheat. That's where we've got corn, all that kind of stuff. A lot of our food is grown right there. So that's our breadbasket of America. So your major temperate grasslands are located in the US, Uruguay, Argentina, Mongolia, southern portion of Russia. Your largest savanna is going to be right there in Africa. And then nearly half of the continent of Africa is savanna. And then other areas where you can find savannas are in South America, India, and Australia.
Why is it blue?
It's just showing you that savanna is different from the other grasslands. Just a graphic. So desert. All right. Sometimes the term desert will trip people up. When you think of a desert, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Sand.
Sand. What else?
Desert temple.
Desert temple. Okay. What's it feel like in the desert?
Think of desert, I think of the cake and stuff like that.
A cake?
Yeah.
Oh, dessert. All right, there you go. Yeah, I had a teacher once who told me the difference between desert and dessert is that dessert has 2 S's because you always want more dessert. That worked. Now I never forgot it. Dry with low precipitation, but a lot of the time when you think of desert, you think of hot, but really the defining factor is the precipitation. So yes, they cover about 1/5 of the Earth's surface and they get very little rainfall, so less than 50 centimeters a year. So the desert biome is divided into 4 basic types. You've got arid. These are the hot and dry ones, right? You got semi-arid, which are not as hot, but they're still pretty dry. You've got coastal deserts, which occur along western edges of continents at the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn, and they can run parallel coast to coast and they can produce fogs and things like that. And then you've got cold deserts. So this would be Antarctica and in the Arctic region. Those are deserts because the precipitation is so low. And any precipitation that's there tends to be in the form of ice, right? So it's very, very cold. So your key characteristics of your desert biome are little rainfall, temperatures that vary greatly between day and night. Why? If you are outside and it's 80 to 85 degrees in Atlanta and you go to bed, why is it, 75? You might be lucky if it gets to 75 at night versus if you're in Phoenix and it's 100 degrees, it's going to be 60 at night. Why is that? Why?
Because it's nighttime.
because it's nighttime, but why does it stay so warm here?
The atmosphere,
Yeah, what about it?
along with carbon, something like that.
Not carbon, what is it? The trees can be part of it, Drew.
Moisture.
The moisture. There you go. It's humid as all get out here, right? Everybody who lives, you understand. When I went outside to put those blasted stakes in the ground yesterday, not only were my feet soaking wet, my body was soaking wet when I came inside. You could have picked me up and wrung me out like a rag. It was disgusting. Like I changed clothes and I was still wet. I'm like, what is happening? It is so humid here. Whereas if you go to a place like Phoenix where it's dry, it gets really cool at night because there's no moisture in the air to trap in the heat. That's the part of the atmosphere that keeps it warm here. That's why rainforests, tropical rainforests are so warm. They're very humid and that moisture traps in the heat. So everything stays nice and toasty. Whereas like, that's the other thing. If you're in a place like Phoenix or Colorado or somewhere like that, you got to pound water all day long because you don't realize how fast it's evaporating from your skin. And every time you exhale, you're exhaling water and you will dry out and turn into a raisin really fast. Like you have got to come. You'll look like Voldemort when they destroy him and you just kind of, you know what I mean? Like you have got to drink because it's so dry. So Earth's 5 largest deserts are going to be, your Antarctic is your largest desert with 5.5 million square miles, which means it's bigger than our largest rainforest by far. Yep.
That's
Go ahead. What's the next one?
the Sahara.
Sahara. Okay. So we've got next. Arctic is actually next, but after that, Antarctic and Arctic, then we have our Sahara. So this is the one you think of when you think of like, where are people that currently live in deserts that aren't in the US? That's probably the first one you think of right through there, right? That's very dry land. And then you have the Arabian Desert, which is kind of like sort of right in there. And then the Gobi in Asia. The Gobi Desert is this one up in the tippy top up there, spread out. So we have lots of different deserts in, stop it. Lots of different deserts in lots of different places. Some of them are cold and some of them are hot.
Why does Australia change shape on every map?
I don't know, dude. That's a great question.
Comes in.
You know though, when they say it's a dry heat, you ever heard anybody say that about, oh, it's not so bad in Las Vegas, it's a dry heat. It really, it's still hot, but you don't feel like you're breathing in soup, which sometimes around here, I feel like I'm trying to inhale air and I'm getting soup. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's very humid here. You ever step out of your car and your sunglasses fog over because it's so cold in your car?
That happened to my mom, like she has to like wait in the
Yeah.
car because otherwise her glasses fog up. She can't.
To get out and yeah, you step out of the car and say, that doesn't happen in Arizona. It's interesting. It doesn't happen. So for most of the year, the tundra biome is, oh, that's one more thing I'll say. If you go to visit the desert, you may not even need a hairdryer because your hair will be dry after you shower in like 5 minutes. So, and mine takes hours here. So for most of the year, the tundra biome is cold, frozen landscape. The biome has short growing season, followed by harsh conditions that the plants and animals in the region need special adaptations to survive. So the only living organisms in the tundra are very, very highly specialized organisms that can survive in the tundra. The winters are long, dark, and cold. Look where the tundra is. These are some places that sometimes only have a few hours of daylight, right? In the winter, because of the way they're positioned and tilted, they only get a few hours of daylight. And it can be very miserable and cold. And you can get temperatures that are below 0 Celsius, so below freezing, for 6 to 10 months of the year. And they have that permafrost. So it's not like you're planting anything there.
That mean I just had to go to school for 3 hours?
No, they go in the dark. They do everything in the dark. They act like it's daytime because it is, but it's dark day. Day darkness. Darkness, dark day.
The car, she's like, have you ever thought about it?
Day darkness. Yeah.
Night is just the day, but dark. I'm just like, bro.
That's a fun one. So tundra form two distinct cold and dry regions. You have an Arctic tundra, which are found on your high latitude land masses above the Arctic Circle. And then you have an alpine tundra, and these are located at very high elevations atop mountains where overnight temperatures fall below freezing. So alpine tundra, it's a great example. Do you see the Alps right there? in the middle of Europe, a little tiny spot. That's alpine tundra. So would be, what's this in the middle? What's that?
China.
Himalayas. There you go. Himalayas are going to behave the same way as an alpine tundra. You know, the Yeti's a big snow monster. Why is he a snow monster? Because it's tundra. I'd like to know what specialized features he has to live there. Tundra is a treeless polar desert found in high latitudes, right? So primarily you're going to find it in Alaska, Canada, Russia, Greenland, Iceland, Scandinavia, and then sub-Antarctic islands. So itty bitty, way down low, but big area, but oof. So aquatic biomes. All right, we have three main types of aquatic biomes. Now here's where you need to get this one in your head. Aquatic is anything with water. Marine is ocean. So you can be marine and aquatic, but not all aquatic things are marine. All marine things are aquatic, but not all aquatic things are marine. So you have estuaries, and these are your areas along the coast where your fresh water meets the salt water. What do you call water that's a mix of fresh and salt? Anybody know? It's called brackish water, the mixture. And it tends to be where you have tidal areas because you've got some salt water coming into your freshwater lakes and rivers, and then that fresh water also pulls out into the ocean. So you get this sort of exchange of water, and you get water that's salty, but not ocean salty and not unsalty enough to be fresh water, kind of in the middle. So each day as tide rises, salt water flows in, likewise fresh water flows out, and it mixes, and you get estuaries, which can be surrounded by anything like swamps, coral reefs, and beaches. And if you look, there's a great map for estuaries. Estuaries, like some of our biggest, best known ones are like Mississippi River Delta is an estuary. Probably our best known local one would be if you go to Savannah and you're there at the Savannah River, where it empties into the Atlantic Ocean. That's an estuary. So those are all areas that are considered estuaries. Freshwater biomes, these are less than 1% salt. So if they're getting salt, it's not coming from the ocean. Usually it's coming from rocks, minerals, things of that sort. And these are going to include things like lakes, rivers, ponds, streams, and some wetlands. Other wetlands are going to be estuary wetlands, right? So they're going to have a lot of salt water that comes in, marshes around the ocean. These are about a fifth of the world. Every single continent has some type of freshwater biome on it. So Lake Lanier, freshwater biome, right? River, freshwater biome. And then lastly, we have marine. So your marine is your oceans. Those are your ocean biomes. And these are all salt water. And your largest biome in the world is going to be your marine biome because more of the earth is covered with ocean than with anything else, right? So it's everything from little microscopic cyanobacteria to big old blue whales can live in this biome. It's hugely diverse. We don't even know the full diversity of a marine biome because we can't even like see all of it, like physically see or visit all of it yet. We've gotten pretty good, but there's parts of it that are still very mysterious, which is why so many people get fascinated by marine biology in particular. Like a lot of people love that. Yeah, very dangerous. Yeah. So although there's some disagreement, several types of marine ecosystems are largely agreed upon. So there are marine estuaries. So your estuaries around the coastal areas are estuary, but they're kind of lean towards being marine estuary. Salt marshes, mangrove forests, coral reefs, the open ocean, and the deep sea ocean. These are all very different areas. All right, so let's look at these. What is your biome that is warm year-round, wet and dry seasons, plants are tall, deciduous trees, succulents, animals undergo estivation or migration? What have we got, Kenna? Tropical dry forest is spot on. Very good. Now, a tropical rainforest, what would our climate and soil be like there? Eunice.
Warm year round, wet and dry seasons, rich soil.
Well, it's hot and wet year round, but it's nutrient poor soil. So not the most nutrient soil. And then how about animals and plants? What do we have for that, Kenna? Okay, so you've got plants with broad leaves, evergreen leaves, vines. Animals may use as camouflage to hide behind them from predators. You've got animals that live in the canopy, have adaptations for climbing, jumping, and or flight. So what do we call the biome where we've got cold, dark winters, short, soggy summers, and permafrost? What do you think?
Tundra.
Tundra. Plants, high hugging plants, That's our tundra. High hugging plants, animals and birds and mammals that can tolerate the harsh conditions. So our temperate grasslands, what do we have for climate and soil? Jordan.
It has warm summers, cold winters, it has
Yep, and
moderate precipitation.
yep, and some fertile soil. And how about the plants and animals that are in our temperate grassland? What do we have?
I have mostly grass, some small trees, and for animals, a lot of them are camouflage or growing.
Good deal. Okay, now look, I got a couple people who haven't answered anything yet. So try, if you've written it down, if you've written your answers in your binder, you've got an opportunity to answer some of these. So how about low precipitation with variable temperatures? What do we have? Okay, Colin. There's your desert. Very good. Okay, and how about your boreal forest? What do we say about the climate and the soil in the boreal forest? All right, Kenneth? Yeah, so long cold winters, short mild summers, moderate precipitation, acidic, nutrient poor soils. And then lastly, what kind of plants and animals are in the boreal forest? Okay, Eunice.
Plants are kind of coniferous trees and animals, thick fur feathers, hibernate and migrate.
Very good. So conifers, animals, most have small extremities, extra insulation. Some migrate to warmer areas in the winter. Very good. All right. What are the four main factors that affect aquatic ecosystems? Anybody who hasn't answered want to go yet? Not yet. Nobody's there yet. Jordan, you go.
Depth, temperature, current, and nutrients.
Very good. Water depth, temperature, flow, and the amount of dissolved nutrients. And how about, well, go back. Go back. Well, I answered that one for you. What does the depth of water determine? The amount of light that organisms receive. And what distinguishes the photic zone from the aphotic zone in an aquatic ecosystem, Drew? Oh, look, they're out of order. That was fun. Yes, how much sunlight penetrates the photic zone, but not the aphotic zone, right? So sunlight is going to get to the photic zone. Photo, light. Aphoto, no light. All right, so it's primarily climate conditions, temperature, and precipitation that determine the growth in what? Oh wait, there is nothing there. Sorry, in a region. I can't read. I don't know why there's a gap there. In a region. Sorry, the plants determine the animals that inhabit the region. Both plants and animals determine the ecosystems. Deciduous forests have a variety of it's supposed to say habitats there because they have a wide variety of plant life. The point along the shoreline between high and low tide is the intertidal zone. And organisms in the intertidal zone have to face pounding waves as well as sudden changes in temperature and water level. These are things like barnacles, oysters, right? You see them all like growing stuck to things, holding on for dear life because the waves come by all the time. The neritic zone is rich in living things. Oh gosh, sorry. Because sunlight passes through the shallow water, allowing for photosynthesis to occur. Estuaries exist where freshwater meets saltwater. And the surface zone is out in the open ocean where light penetrates only a few hundred meters. All right, let's talk about how do we study populations. So determining population size. So we've got different methods for determining the size of a population. And the first one we would call direct observation. So a good example would be like you go to a tide pool and you count the number of crabs that are in the tide pool. That is direct observation. You are directly observing how many of a species make up that population. Then we have indirect observation. And this is a good example here. So swallows, some swallows make these little mud nests, right? Say you happen to know on average that there are 4 swallows per nest. So you count the number of nests instead of the number of swallows, and then you multiply it by 4 because that's the typical number of swallows per nest, and then you get an estimate for your population size. So you are indirectly measuring the population size by using some other data.
Is it an African swallow or a European
I
swallow?
don't know. Can it carry a coconut? That's a great question. He's making a Monty Python reference if you didn't know. So, and a very good one too. Huh? Yeah, the coconuts migrate. Uh-huh. Good one. And then you've also got what you call sampling. So sometimes it's not possible to count, I think every single, I don't know what it says there, something weird. Every single member of population. I don't know what happened there, but the population may be spread over a wide area. So say you have a forest that's 100 square meters, and in 10 square meters, you count 6 birch trees. How many birch trees are you going to estimate you're going to find? You found 6 in 10 square meters, and you're trying to do 100 square meters. So yeah, I'm going to estimate that there are 60 here, because sometimes it's too hard to count. It's too many to count, too many things. They're too densely packed, or they're too small. So this is also, by the way, how they do sometimes for biopsies when they're counting cells on a microscope, like they're counting inflammatory cells, and they want to give you a range. They'll do that. They'll get to a certain high-powered frame. They'll count the number of whatever target cells they're looking for in that range, and then they'll use the same type of math you did in our first lab where you determine how big something was, and they will come up with a number so that you know roughly how many you're dealing with, and they can give you an answer for your biopsy. So there's also, when we tag critters, mark and recapture studies. So this is like when they put the collars or the ear clips on the deer or the moose or whatever it might be, or in this case, they epoxied some little radio transmitter to this turtle. He seems none the wiser and doesn't care. He's got his own little personal antenna to take him wherever he goes. But they can follow the migration habits of this particular animal, or its herd, or its school, or its flock, or whatever it is, because they're getting information from that animal. It's getting transmitted back somewhere. Or sometimes they just mark and then capture, like a colored band. Okay, and how many of those birds left this spot, flew somewhere, and came back? Okay, we put 30 collared bands on last year, and we only have 10 that returned. So 20 of them died on the way, that sort of a thing. So yeah, there's lots of ways. So it, like this says, ecologists count the turtles and mark each turtle shell with a dot. Sometimes they'll do that and then release them, then count them when they've been recaptured. Or you can use these cool little transmitter fields. Yeah. All right. So let's just pretend. Now this is totally for pretend, because there are reasons why this wouldn't work for real. But let's say you have a 12-meter by 7-meter vegetable garden. And in 1 square meter, you find 2 toads. Oh, 1 and 2 toads. You're like, okay, I got 2 toads per square meter. Estimate the population of toads in the garden. So you're going to figure that in 1 square meter, you got 2 toads. So what you would do is you take 12 times 7 and you get 84 square meters, and you know you have 2 for every square meter. So 2 times 84 square meters is going to give us our answer. Now, there's some problems with this though. Do you really think this little garden is going to be able to manage all these turtles? I mean, frogs? That's a lot of frogs. That's 168 toads. That totals the total number of toads. Yeah.
This might be incorrect because like you could find only like 2 toads in like 1 area.
It could just be that you happen to find 2 and you're making an assumption. But there's something called carrying capacity, which we'll talk about, but that's your limit. This garden can only handle this many. So maybe those 2 are happy in that square foot or square meter, or whatever it is, because they get that one little cabbage to themselves, but there's only but so much water. Maybe they have to move around somewhere to get the water. And, you know, you're only going to be able to have but so many toads. So yeah, the population can increase and rise with a birth rate. So when you get little baby toads, you can get more toads, and you're like, oh, look, it's a birthing of toads, baby toads. But immigration can also cause it to increase. They moved in, and it can increase or rise with death. Oh, they did. Or emigration, they've moved out, right? So these are things that can change your population numbers. Now, bunnies. Now we have bunnies. Aren't they cute? So births and deaths. The birth rate of a population is the number of births in a certain amount of time. And the death rate is the number of deaths in a certain amount of time. So a population of 100 rabbits can produce 600 young rabbits in a year. That's a lot. So the birth rate of the population is 600 per year, but the death rate is, if 400 rabbits die in the population, the death rate would be 400 rabbits per year. But here's the statement on population. When the birth rate of a population is greater than the death rate, the population will increase. And it can be written with the greater than sign. So if the birth rate is greater, then the population will increase. If the death rate is greater, then the population will decrease. This is like, it's funny, but a lot of churches will talk about this. They're like, we have too many people with gray hair here and not enough crying babies. Because if you want a healthy population, you want at least a balance between the number dying and the number being born, but preferably you want more being born than dying. Preferably you want to replace yourself at a rate over 1. So a mother and father that have 3 children have net added to the population. If they have 2 children, they have balanced out. If they have 1, they have decreased at a net the population. If you've got lots of kids, then you're adding to the population, right? So the goal should be to add, biologically speaking. So we have population density. What's a good definition for that? Density. Barrett?
The given amount of a certain species in an isolated area.
In an area. So it's the number of individuals per specific area. So it's the number of individuals per unit area. All right. What are limiting factors? Do we know? What you got, Kenna? Right. Controls the growth of the population. So examples of things like water, space, weather conditions, food, all those kinds of things. And then I don't know what says space. What is that? Why do I have so many weird things that like duplicated themselves in here? I don't know. Carrying capacity. We talked about it just a second ago. You know?
It's the population level grows up when it reaches the environment's limit.
Yeah. So it's the largest population that an area can support. If you go over the carrying capacity, individuals are going to start to die, whether those individuals be producers that are being eaten or guys at the top of the food chain are starving. But your carrying capacity is where you have a perfect balance. It's the most population that can be within a particular area. So what is the area in which a population lives called? No, in which it lives. Okay, so this one's going to be geographic range, but ecosystem's not a wrong answer. All right, the population density is the what of individuals per unit? Yes, Sander. There you go. It's the amount of individuals per unit or the number. You could say either one of those. How the individuals are spaced in their range is a population, what? How they're spaced out. Isabella. That's, yeah, or distribution. And growth rate is how quickly a population does what? Lucas. Increases. To find what of a population, you count the number of males and females of each age. Drew? The age structure of the population. Very good. Okay. What is exponential growth? These are phases of growth. What would you call exponential growth? Barrett.
Exponential growth is like basically if you have more being born than death, then it's just gonna keep going and going and going and going and going until something changes.
Yeah, so this is when a population is new to an area and you've got individuals reproducing rapidly, a few die, both the population size and the growth rate increase rapidly. This was the first year the Joro spiders arrived here. It was exponential growth. They were everywhere. Then we have growth slowing down in a population. Why does it slow down, Jordan?
It's to move more towards the carrying capacity.
Yes, it's growing towards carrying. It's slowly starting to slow its rate because it's getting closer and closer to carrying capacity. And then why does it stop? Asher? Because it's reached its carrying capacity. Very good. Reached its carrying capacity. All right, what are limiting factors? Okay, so this is in your notes. Limiting factors determine, okay, immigration and emigration, by the way. If you have trouble with those two, think of emigration as exodus. It's leaving an area. Exodus, emigration. Immigration is incoming, so you're coming into the area. If that helps you remember. So limiting factors determine the immigration capacity of a population. Is that what we want there for this blank, for number 1? What do you think?
migration?
So it's a carrying capacity that we're looking for, okay? So limiting factors controls the growth of a population. Is this true, false, or do we change the word? That's what these are. True, false, or change the word. Caitlin? There you go. True. All right. Limiting factors operate when growth is exponential. True, false, or change the word. What you got?
False.
He says false. Logistic is the word that we're looking for. So that falls over here. So limiting factors operate when growth is logistic. All right. How about that there? Populations grow too large in the absence of limiting factors. Yeah. There we go. True. That's a problem, right? We don't want things to grow out of control. That's the problem with the Juro spiders. We don't have anything to eat them. Competition is an example of a limiting factor. True, false, or change the word. Caitlin? True. Population size can be limited by factors such as predation. True, false, or change the word. Colin? True. All right. Over the last 1,000 years, the size of the human population has decreased. True, false, or change the word. False, he says. Yes, it has increased. So you could have said either really for that. If it's false, you change the word. So true or change the word, I should say. Not true, false, or change the word. All right. Since the 1800s, the population has been logistic. True or change the word. What do you think? True, he says. So exponential. Still exponential. We're still nowhere near carrying capacity. Overpopulation is not a problem for humans right now. It might be in certain cities, but as a whole, it is not. The human population has increased because birth rates have dropped. True or change the word? What you got, Yusuf? Two? Death rates. The human population has increased because death rates have dropped. Are we living longer?
Yes.
Yes. Are we all dying of tuberculosis at the age of 9? No, we're not. We're living longer, aren't we? Oh my gosh, people are living well into like the 80s and 90s. Dude, I was watching, what was I? Oh, I just started watching, what is it, 1883 or whatever, the prequel to Yellowstone. Sam Elliott's like 79 when he filmed that. He looks like somebody who's 50 from when I was growing up. Like just in the last 20, 30 years, things have changed markedly, right? I know multiple people over 90 years old who drive. You know, that was not that used to, they would have been dead. They wouldn't have been driving in the past, that's for sure. All right, how about the combination of low death rates and high birth rates led to exponential growth? Is it true or we change the word? Barrett.
Got a point. It might be true.
It's true. It's true. All right. And Charles Darwin suggested human populations are regulated by war, famine, and disease. Is that true or change the name? Colin. Thomas Malthus suggested it, but it sounds like something he would have said because he said all kinds of interesting things. All right. Before we wrap up today, so I've hosted, used our web platform. Hold on, before you pack things up, I've hosted a dance for the past like 8 years, except for COVID year. And last spring, guys, stop. Last spring, I was unable to do it because we could not get the venue. They changed the way the venue was rented. We could not get the venue. I tried. So this year, I told everybody I'll do it in the fall and then the spring. So we have 2 dances this year. We have one on the 11th of October and one on the 25th of April. It has nothing to do with class. You don't have to come, but it's fun. And any extra money that we make after we've paid for the venue and paid for the food does go to us. I go ahead and drop it in our program because I don't want it personally. I just do this so y'all can have fun.
Yeah,
But I drop it in and we end up getting something fun. We got the chemistry dishwasher. But this year, what I would for real love to get, one of 2 things if we ever get extra money. The cat, I'd love to get us a cat when we do dissections. But I'd also played with the idea of button quail.
Sure.
Don't know if you've ever seen button quail, but you can buy them and hatch them, and the babies will fit in the palm of your hand. They're so tiny. They're like this big. They don't even look real. They're so freaking cute. So those are options. So, yep. And otherwise, y'all are dismissed. Let me put these up. You can take this to the counter.
You're talking about a life dad.
No, not a live
We
one.
got to do baby sharks in middle school. It was fun.
The crane
Yes.
thing, do you divide the, like,
Show me where, yeah.
that's like.
Quick question.
So on my test for the one that we did, for carnivore, herbivore, I made it plural, so it marked it wrong.
Oh, your homework, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I've already, yeah, I'll go, I see those every time. It's gonna do that. It can't possibly guess everything it's gonna come up with.
And,
Yeah.
with the triangle, I didn't realize that there were before them, so I answered all the
That's
questions
fine.
on them.
When I grade them, I'll look for it. If they're in the right order, I know what you meant.
What do you divide this by?
Okay, so, let's see, your hatching success rate, let me see. Gotta put myself in the groove here. Number of eggs hatched, it would be by your number laid, wouldn't it? You have that?
Yes.
They give you that, right? Where is it? Oh, yes. So laid, so it's gonna be, your percentage is gonna be hatched over laid times 100, because it'll give you decimal, so, yeah. Yes, hang on.
On my test, I forgot to look at it earlier, so I put light energy or chemical energy.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
things.
fine, I'll get it, no worry, I gotta check.
I wasn't sure if you had already.
Yeah, I gotta go through them all. I looked, there were a couple that were done, I did, and then the rest I was like, yeah, I'm gonna sit down with these. You can
Oh,
look
my
at.
shoe.
What's up, sorry, Eunice?
It's fine, there's kids called Jinx.
Yeah, she ended up not coming, so. Yeah, she's on there, but she ended up not coming, so. Oh, well, for her, she's got a puppy with nothing in it.
That's just my goal almost every day, never day.
Oh, you lucky dog. I wish I could say the same. I don't know what I did for my back, but it is not happy. All right, I'm gonna turn this off.
You better bet my socks are stinky.
Oh, thank you. I always wanted to know that. Yes.
1846.
What's up?
Do you have a 2025 penny?
I have no idea.